SwayamPrabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello everyone, welcome to Module 6, Session 1, Introduction to Identity Design. So let's dive in. So in this session, we will try to understand the concept of branding and how it's important for any visual design, especially in the world of graphic design. And we'll also look into different case studies associated to it. Such that we have a better understanding how designers take the benefit of branding in terms of defining the essence of the particular brand, right? And how it can create a larger impact to the overall community which they are trying to project. We will also go through the idea of different case studies associated to branding and how it has impacted the overall audience. Okay, so in session 2, primarily we'll be discussing about visual branding, how visual elements plays an important role in depicting the presence of a brand, right? And how are the elements associated to visual branding create a perception about that particular brand in terms of visual, utilizing the elements of visuals, right? Along with that, we'll also look into different case study associated to visual branding in terms of product packaging, logo design, print publication, marketing, say for example, video animation, which are associated to that. So we'll discuss that in the second session. In session 3, we'll also understand what are the elements associated to visual identity. As I said, within visual identity, there can be logo, typeface, right? How to choose better typeface, what kind of shapes are important to create such kind of essence in that particular brand, right? Apart from that, again, we will see how colors, you have learned definitely how color creates an impression or emotion on that particular composition, right? Similarly, in terms of visual design, how do we associate colors, right? Be it becoming warm, like, or playful in nature, or it can be very much confident, right? Or it can be very much trustworthy. So what kind of colors we are using to create such kind of essence. Next is the types of logo. So once you have understand all about the visual elements of the visual identity, right, then you will also see how there are various segments within the logo design. It can be monogram, it can be logo type, it can be brand mark logo, it can be combination logo. So we will look into that different segments and how those things are designed to create a better output, right? We'll look into that. And finally, we'll end this session with the process. So if you have better understanding of all the elements, types of logo, so how do you design a logo? And we'll also look into the area where how the overall brief is taken into consideration, such that it makes sense for that particular brand to create such kind of representation. We'll also look how can be a logo a functional logo. What I mean by that is, like, if you're designing a logo, is it working in all the platform which is meant to be it print publication, be it digital platform like apps, right? Again, within that, again, how the idea of choosing typeface is taken into consideration, such that it creates a correlation, it shows a uniformity in the overall representation. So with that, we'll end this session, and you will also go through some of the examples or assignments associated to that, such that you have a better understanding on the overall logo design process. So now we'll continue with session 1, that is branding with case studies. Yeah, so in this segment, we'll try to look into brief about branding and some of the case studies, and we'll also look why there is the importance of branding as for especially for any kind of brands, right, to be part of the market or to be part of the competitors, and how it impacts in terms of doing a better branding. Okay, so since we have been repeatedly using the word branding, so I would also like to know what's going in your mind when we say the word branding, right? So primarily, most of you have thought by now, right? A logo can be branding, right? So I'm again asking you whether a logo is part of is the idea of branding or not, or a identity design, right? So we'll also look and discuss about it. So yes, it's a part of branding, but I would say there it's not exactly the concept of branding. So when you see logo, right, it's about how you feel about that particular brand visually. Okay, and that's a very small part in the concept of branding. Okay, so when you see a product, no, now you if you see a product, so is that branding, right? So I'm just trying to poke you in that direction. Like you have to also question, like when you see a product, is that branding or not? So again, we'll discuss that clearly in the upcoming slides. So finally, when you are experiencing a product, you are also trying to create an impression about that product. So is that branding, right? So maybe, right, or some of you might also know that okay, it can be branding or it cannot be branding, right? So next, primarily in design studios or any kind of organizations, right? Typically, a client comes with some kind of brief, and you as a designer tries to solve and create some kind of solutions associated to that particular brief, right? And then you deploy it to the market, right? So is that branding? So when you deal with client and you are giving some kind of solutions like in terms of visual requirements or brand requirements, right? So that's another way to look into like is that branding or not. So I'm asking repeatedly, is that branding? It will help you to clear it out because these questions are repeatedly observed for most of the graphic designers who are trying to learn about branding. Okay, so finally, if you see this image, right, so there are logo, there are impression, there are clients, right? Again, there are employees related to that particular brand, there are products related to that particular brand. Even there can be designers associated to that particular brand who are providing XYZ solutions to the client. So when you see overall things, right, you are finally disclosing any kind of product or organization to the consumers, right? So when the consumer experience all of this, right, they create some kind of perception or a gut feeling about that particular brand. So now is this branding or not, right? So you can also think about it and you can also correlate. Now we have talked about impression, we have talked about logo, we have talked about client designer clients way of process of doing things and providing some kind of solutions. Again, the solutions can be product. Again, there are employees associated to that particular organization. So is this branding or not, right? So and finally you create a perception. So based on a product, so say for example you have bought some kind of a mobile phone, say for example, and you have some kind of after using it you are creating some kind of perception about it, right? Whether it's good, whether it's user friendly, whether the overall features are very much interesting to execute within the UI, right? So you are definitely creating a perception about it, right? And because of this perception you are creating some kind of impression. So basically you are creating it may be a good impression or it can be a bad impression. So you are creating an impression, and exactly that impression is about branding. Okay, so finally when you have a perception about that brand, right, it's a process basically. So branding is a process of developing affection to your consumers, and this is said by Milton Glaser. So most of you may know about Milton Glaser, but again I would like to highlight you. So Milton Glaser was a legendary American graphic designer known for his iconic works like I Love New York. I'm pretty sure most of you have seen that logo, I Love New York. now it has become a global representation. So most of the places, especially tourist places, you will see I love the name of that particular place. So I love India can be also a representation of that, right? I love IIT Hyderabad. Even in our entrance, you can see the I love IIT Hyderabad as a logo. So this became one of the iconic representation. And he has also worked on Bob Dylan's poster, the psychedelic poster, which was very famous at that time. And he was the first graphic designer to receive National Media of Art Clays Arts. And also he believed the power to serve society, learning, and lasting the legacy of culture and communication. So, and this comes from him only. So he says that branding is a process of developing affection to your consumers. So when you do any kind of branding, you are always associating the overall brand, like how it's creating such kind of impact to them, right? Be it a service, be it a product, what kind of impression it's creating. Is it good enough to serve the purpose which you are trying to address, right? So those kind of perceptions are being created. And when when the overall system is trying to address such kind of perception in a good way, right, to have a better impression, that's the idea of branding. Okay, so you can say logo can be part of branding, because somewhere or the other the idea of logo becomes a representation of that particular brand. So logo is a part of branding, but it's not exactly branding. So it's a very small part within the concept of branding. So the visual branding, again, visual branding always curates and caters towards the concept of overall branding. So brand definitely takes the benefit of the concept of visuals, right? All the visual elements associated to that particular brand, and easily it becomes a point of reference, or it becomes very recognizable within the competitors. Say for example, the Apple, right? And Apple organization, right? So what they do is, like, they are very good in terms of branding. So when you see the logo anywhere, right, be it mobile phone, be it in a laptop, be it a desktop, you automatically create a perception about it, because the perception can come in terms of as a first time user when you see the product, when you experience the product, right? And it can also come based on the past experience. So you know the product is good enough, you know the product is has multiple features, the product is primarily seamless, right? And they are good in exploring new ways of defining the overall concept of technology, right? And that's also is creating a perception on you. And this is what the overall concept of branding is. Okay, so again, coming back to the basics. So when you say logo, when you say product, these are part of branding, but it's not exactly the branding. Branding is actually a process where everything counts. Even the employees counts, even the overall space counts, even the overall visualization counts, right? The system counts. So everything, when it together tries to create for a better way of impression towards the users, right? That process is known as branding. So branding is about reputation. So finally, you are creating a perception. The reputation, or it can be said as impression, right? So it can be good or it can be bad. So it's finally a customer's perception you are trying to create. So almost everybody associated with the company is affecting the brand. So this is a very, very important point. So as I said, be it an employee, be it a manager, right? Everybody associated to that particular is affecting the brand. So say for example, suppose if I went to a shop, right? And maybe the shop is very much renowned for their services, right? Let us assume that it's a mobile shop, right? And it's a very famous mobile shop. So say for example, we both, you and me, are going to that shop, we are buying something, right? And if the employee of that particular shop is not engaging with us properly, or maybe rude with us properly, that will impact the overall essence of the perception of the brand. Primarily, we'll raise question on the overall brand, like how they are managing. It's not the employee we are directly targeting. We also say ki XYZ shops employees are not treating us well. so the overall brand is not concerned about customer service. Okay, so this is how we create a perception. Okay, and that's why even a smaller level employee has the essence of the brand. They carries the reputation of the brand. Okay, and if anything bad happens, we will not associate it with the employee. Maybe the employee has ill-treated us, right? But we'll directly project the overall perception towards the brand. So next time we'll say directly the brand's name, and we'll say, okay, in this brand they don't provide a better service for the consumers, and I will refrain to go there. Okay, in that way we'll create such kind of perception. So as I said, this may also include harming the reputation of the brand. So again, the concept of branding is very dynamic in nature. What I mean is that today the perception about the overall experience, say, let us take the same case, right? My perception is totally bad. So maybe the employee has treated me rudely, right, when I was trying to buy something. But another person who have went there, maybe the employee was good enough to navigate the purchase decision of the consumer. So for that particular consumer, the idea of that particular brand may be very much good enough. For me, it can be different because my experience was totally bad. So as I said, branding is very much personal, I would say. And it's very much, I would say, dynamic. It may change. So today, if my experience was bad, next time when I go, if they rectify it and if they approach it in a much better, maybe I will change my perception. Okay, and that's why most of the brand has customer service in their overall operations, right? Because the customer service always tries to maintain, if there is any flaw in that particular system, is there any flaw in that particular product or services, the customer service always tries a better way to approach you such that the things are resolved, right? And if some of the customer service are very much reluctant to address any kind of problem, again, that perception totally changes. And as I said, it's very dynamic in nature. You cannot say that my perception will be permanent. So even though if I am very much satisfied with a product, suddenly if I go after 10 years and the whole experience was totally different and the product is not functional in nature, right? Or my overall perception will change. Maybe I will refer back saying that 10 years ago your product was too good, but now I am not satisfied with that product. And that is the impact of branding, because if the company doesn't sustain, doesn't look into consumer needs, right, it will be a hard time for them to sustain for a longer duration. And that's why some of the company, when they stays for longer duration, they boast in that they have been able to successfully able to keep them in the market, providing better perception of that brand. And that's why they have been still competing with the other competitors in the market. So next is branding is the strategic process of creating, developing, right, and managing a distinct identity for an entity, be it a product, service, company, or individual. Now this is a very important line because we have talked about it, right? So it can be anything. So the idea of projecting the brand in terms of products, services, company, or it can be individual. So it's not always about one company or one organization. So it can be also individual. Say for example, I can also work on my branding, okay, and how I approach, how I talk, right? How I conduct my session. So you are also creating an impression upon me, okay, and with that impression, somehow or the other, you are also building some kind of relationship with this course with me, right? And tomorrow when you recall such kind of things or you meet me in person, you will carry that impression till the time you meet me. And if while meeting you I am rude about the overall discussion, or I am very much reluctant in terms of discussing what I have taught, right? You will again change the perception, saying, okay, I had a different perception about you. Now, when I have talked with you, it seems to be very odd, and you are not in terms of friendly in nature, right? But again, if I approach you very humbly and if I talk to you and discuss the things nicely and maybe try to understand what are these struggles in your assignments, right? And how did you resolve it, and I am navigating you in a correct way, then maybe the overall impression will be totally different. Maybe it will be much far better than you have assumed in this such kind of interaction, right? So again, it can be from the individualist perception also. So as an individual also, you have that caliber to create perception, and this is why most of the leadership skills are being taught in most of the organization, to create a brand about themselves, such that tomorrow if I hear that name, it becomes a point of a reference for me to connect or to disconnect. Okay. So, since we have tried to understand the concept of branding, now we will also look into the key components which are associated to branding. So the first component is the brand identity. So in the mid of our discussions, right, which we have talked briefly about logo design and all, right, the color choice and all, right. So the brand identity is the collection of visual and verbal and emotion elements that together define a brand presence itself to its audience. Okay, so it involves shaping the perception and fostering emotional connection between different brands. Okay, so when we say branding, it's, as I said, it's not just about the visual elements, right? It's like it will always help. The visual elements will always help, but primarily it's not always about it, right? It's about how you're creating a perception. So maybe the logo is bad, right? But the overall customer service seems to be very good. And based on the customer service, you may change your perception also. So maybe you are not bothered about how visually it looks, but the overall service is so good that you are ignoring the concept of the logo. Okay, but again, it's equally important. So if you are new into the market, sometimes, most of the time, I would say, the logo creates a first impression. Okay, that's why brand identity becomes very important, be it in terms of visuals, right, be it in terms of experience or emotion, anything it can be. So again, as I said, it's a small part. The visual is a small part, but it's not to be ignored. It's a very major thing if the overall brand is new, because based on that I will decide. Because if I see the brand repeatedly somewhere or the other, if it's new and the marketing team has done good job in promoting the concept of the brand, right? If I'm going to a shop, if I see the product associated to the brand, maybe if since I have seen the product and I know what the product is trying to address, I will have much confidence in buying that product, because I have a previous exposure to that particular brand, and that exposure came because of the logo. It's not about the individual, right? It's not about the company CEO, right? It's about the logo which I have seen, and I have seen what is the product about, and then I will automatically buy that product. And again, that might change. Now see, the first thing the logo or identity design do is to trigger you to convince to experience that product. Okay, to make you convinced to use that product. Okay, and then once you use that product, then automatically it totally depends on you how you perceive that product. Okay, so maybe the overall experience was so good that you are now sharing the product to other users. So again, as I said, it's very much dynamic. So when you say I'm doing a logo design, that doesn't mean the product will be good. Okay, maybe the product is not good, it's not able to address the problem nicely, but the logo is really good. There can be some cases where the logo is bad, but the overall product is so good that you are ignoring the part of the logo. Okay, but yeah, so there are many cases where rebranding also happens. So if your product is doing good, right, definitely it's a good time to rebrand yourself, to give a refreshing look, such that people can connect more, since you have the positive side, right? Your product is already good. So when I see the visuals now, right, it will give me more trust, because the overall representation is so clean and it's much better and it's so refreshing that it will engage me more. It will give me a sense of pride to that overall product. Okay, and that's why good designs are always simple in nature. Okay, good, especially the logo design which are famous, are very much simplistic in nature. So this is what we have tried to talk about. And again, when we say it is the tangible, when we talk about the brand identity, it is the tangible and the sensory expression of a brand that helps people recognize, relate to, and differentiate it from competitors. Essentially, brand identity is how a brand wants to be perceived and remembered. Okay, so again, this is another segment which is very, very important, because it creates a memory, because it becomes the face of your particular brand. So a logo is always a face of a particular brand. So without logo, it's very much difficult for you to recall that particular brand. And it also enhances the trust, because since you have a better experience of that product, it's the logo which will help you to decide. Okay, and that's why most of the brands, right, they put their logo to create the relationship. Maybe you have a much better experience with that particular brand. So tomorrow, if I'm making a new product and I see the logo, I will automatically have a better perception about that new product, even because I have a very good reputation or perception about that particular product which was launched earlier. Now, since you are coming to a new segment and I have seen your logo, automatically my connection with that particular product will be more stronger because of your past experience. And that's there the idea of visual branding comes very strongly, because it helps to recall, it helps to engage, and it builds trust, it builds relationship with that particular brand just by looking at the logo. And that's why it's equally important when we consider visual branding. Now, let's take a small example of Amul. So, Amul is a renowned Indian dairy brand founded in 1946. Its headquarters is in Anand, Gujarat, and it was owned by the Gujarat Cooperative Milk Marketing Federation, which is a cooperative of millions of farmers. Amul is also celebrated widely today. In today's world, it has long list of products, especially dairy products, including butter, milk, cheese, etc. Even ice cream are part of Amul products. So today the brand has become very stronger, and people hold its pride when they use this product. So it has converted the perception, the reputation has converted to pride now. So most of the people, even today in YouTube, if you'll see most of the vendors, street food vendors, they both saying it's a Amul butter. Okay, and people always create a good perception about that. Okay, the butter is good, so that's why they are very much proud to showcase that I'm using Amul butter, not any other butters. Okay, and this has become a trend now. If you see most of the vlogging, especially the food vloggers, they always ask what kind of butter you are using, and the vendor proudly says I'm using Amul butter. And this is where the concept of brand identity, branding has created a so larger impact that people are associating the brand as a pride. And when it reaches as a pride, this is the highest a brand can reach, because they have been successful to convince the consumer, saying that our product is actually good enough and it will affect you in a better way. Okay, so as I said, the idea of Amul has been very much stronger in our in India, and how the campaign runs with the Amul girl. Okay, and we'll try to understand about Amul girl in more detail in the upcoming slides. So we were talking about the mascot of Amul, that is Amul girl, and you can see this character here. She is holding a bread, right? A slice of bread. Again, on top of that, you can see a layered Amul butter, right? And she have become one of the iconic mascot in the Indian market, which has sustained successfully till date. And you can see her impact, her presence even today in different marketing. And Amul girl has campaign has been one of the most, I would say, genius way to project the brand in a very contemporary situations, and we will go through that. So you can see here in 2014 in Indian cricket, Mahendra Singh Dhoni, he retires from Test cricket in 2014, and in that particular space, right, in that particular context, how the overall campaign of Amul Butter girl, right, Amul girl has been showcased, and this is where the creativity and their brand presence is maintained. And this is a very interesting take from for most of the designers to, if you're doing any kind of marketing, any kind of branding strategies, so also please consider this, that how to make your brand existence in the contemporary situation, right, in the upcoming situations. So this is where Amul does the job very nicely, because in most of the happening situations or instances or incidents, Amul take their own way of promoting their brand in a very comic and very humorous way. And this is appreciated all over India, because people from India, irrespective from the rural or urban areas, they can connect because they know what is happening in the country. And based on that, such kind of humorous way of representations are being addressed, and people associated to this in a very fun way, because the overall representations are very much humorous in that way, and it's very much pleasing and welcoming. And indirectly, Amul is also creating a sense of their brand presence, because in India today there are different dairy product brands, right, which are trying to make their space in that particular market. But again, Amul being smart enough to take the present scenario, to take the present context, and to create that context such that it becomes a point of discussion on that particular time. And when it becomes a discussion, they are indirectly also showcasing the brand presence or brand existence in the market. So that's why somewhere or the other, they have been very much strongly successful in that idea of creating the brand presence for multiple generation. And this is a very beautiful strategy, how most of the designers can take inspiration, taking the idea of the brand existence. So now there are multiple application, even food chains, companies who do the similar way of approach. They take the present generation way of communication, and they articulate it in their own way, just to create their way of existence, right? Their or the way how they present themselves in the current context. So next is the brand identity when we are talking about, right? So whereas branding encompasses the overall strategy and actions to create a perception, brand identity focuses specifically on the components that convey a brand personality, values and promises. So basically it also look into the idea of personality. So how does the brand feel, right? What are their values? So if you see Amul, right, so it also, the values is towards generating the empowerment actually. So they are also empowering farmers, milkmen who are associated to milk, producing milk and all. So somewhere or the other, they are also empowering them in giving them opportunities to earn money through the overall organization structure. And this is where the values and promises come into play. So promises, what it means, like sustaining a quality product, right, making sure the product is good enough to be utilized, right, and those are the promises which most of the brand claim, right, saying ki our product is good enough to use, and this will help you in XYZ manner, or this will benefit you in this way, or it will make your life easier in XYZ manner. And this is where the idea of brand identity always come into play. It's always it's not just about the overall strategy, but it's a reflection of that brand. So once I experience that particular brand, what kind of impression I'm creating, what kind of personality I feel, like whether it's good enough, right, it makes sense, like it is a jolly representation, right, or is it a very classy product I'm seeking for, or it's a very luxurious product. So those kind of personality we are also looking into when we experiencing a brand. Also the values, the ethos associated to the, are they doing a good job in terms of for the community or the organization, right? Are the overall environment seems to be good enough, right? If I'm an employee, if I'm applying for a job in that particular company, right, is the overall environment good enough to make me feel comfortable in that particular space? So everything counts. So even if I'm employee, I'm also creating a perception of my own company. Okay, so it's not like the employee will only think about the consumers, but no, it's about the organization also, whether the job quality, the job space, the environment is good enough to do to commit for a longer years for that particular company, right? So those things also becomes a perception. So everything comes, so even the values, right, and the promises which the company creates. So that overall creates the visual identity, the overall ethos, right? The personality, everything comes and create the concept of brand identity. So next is brand positioning, and this is again very interesting. The brand positioning is the process of strategically defining and communicating how a brand is distinct, valuable, and relevant to its target, okay, audience, in comparison to the competitors. So let's take a case here. So you can see in India, Maruti has been one of the pioneering automobile, I would say, company who has successfully maintained its space for the middle class community. And right now, if you see, they have also created a new segment, which is more, they project that segment into a premium segment, which is more towards high quality, good quality product, or the overall segment is towards like more luxury representation. So here you can see how they have created a new segment under the Maruti Suzuki brand. So that is Nexa. So under Nexa, they have a different categories of cars which are sold under that brand umbrella. And this is where the idea of brand positioning is happening. So since they are very much good in terms of projecting the middle class community, their brand essence, right? They have also felt, however, going little bit higher, maybe the upper middle class community or the upper class earning community, right? So in that way, how the Nexa brand plays an important role now. So because the overall space design, over the logo, right, overall experience, the service is totally different. Okay, the employees wear different dress codes, they have a different dress code. So when you enter that particular space of Nexa, automatically you will sense some kind of difference compared to the Maruti Suzuki normal store. Okay, and that's why it's very much important for a brand how to project themselves and what kind of impression they are trying to address. Okay, so especially in Nexa, they are trying to create a premium segment. So basically within Maruti Suzuki, they are also trying to seek for a premium segment where the prices of the car are comparatively higher than the normal Maruti Suzuki store. Okay, and then you can also see how the overall experience. So when you enter, there are proper reception, sitting there, the overall space design is totally different compared to Maruti showrooms. Okay, so again that creates a different perception. So this is where the idea of brand positioning comes into play. So where do you want to keep, right, and how the consumers will perceive, and are you living up to that point, right, or to the point where you are trying to position yourself. So everything counts, and finally you create a perception about that particular brand. So brand personality refers to a set of human characteristic traits and emotional attributes associated to a brand. So overall, it's like the overall personality, right? So this is another segment, brand personality. So where you will try to focus on the human characteristic traits and emotional attributes associated. So you can say the brand seems to be very rugged, very strong, right? Or you can say the brand seems to be very much playful, jolly. It's very welcoming in nature, right? Or if you see the images, the other brand is more towards a medical centric brand, right? So when you see that particular brand, you feel that, okay, this overall brand is towards health and care, right? And this is how you are creating some kind of personality. And this is very, very important for designers to understand that before doing any kind of identity design. So when you are doing any kind of identity design, it's very, very important for designers to also understand where does the brand personality stand, what they are trying to project themselves, right? Is it a brand which is trying to project to be very much stronger, rugged material, right? Or is it a brand which is trying to project themselves very lovely, welcoming, something which is associated to gifts and all, right? Or is it a brand which is associated to some kind of medical sector, right, which looks for health care, anything it can be. So this personality is totally important for designers to understand before they try to create some kind of identity or the face of that organization, company, or any kind of individual. Okay. So this is an interesting case where I hope most of you know about Nike as a brand, right? How they project themselves to be very much involved in the idea of sports, right? And how they promote the sports category, basically how they promote the athletes, right? And how they project themselves, and as a brand how they become a part of their vision, and how they provide good encourage people to go to sports, do exercise, to believe in themselves, right? How emotionally they are trying to project the overall concept. So they came with this slogan, right? Just do it. Again, this is a very interesting take where it also shows that how it creates a perception about the overall. So this becomes a catalyst to the overall vision of that particular brand. Okay. So within that, again, the concept of brand voice and brand tone come into play. Again, this is interestingly very much we as a designer, we have to also understand that. So it gives a brand a distinct identity which resonates emotionally with the audience, making it more reliable and memorable. So when we see a brand voice, right, it doesn't mean like it's a literal voice, but how do you feel about it? So just do it is the voice of that particular brand. So it shows that you don't bother too much about this scenario, you just have to do it, right? And you have to keep on working on that. And this is where the overall personality also develops. So when it refers to the consistent personality, the styles, the value conveyed through all communication, regardless of mediums or context. So it remains a steady over time and reflects the brand's core identity. So as I said, just do it is a overall brand voice, so it remains consistent. So whenever I see the particular brand, the name tag will always pop up. Okay, and this is where they are always connected to. So all the ad campaigns, all the videos associated to the marketing, even the website will always cater to this voice. And this voice is very much inspirational in that matter, like just it is motivating you to do something. And if I am a person who has such kind of traits, right, I will definitely appreciate the brand's way of message they are trying to convey. It's very positive in nature, and it motivates me to seek for such kind of environment or products which I believe. And this is where the concept of branding again come into play. Like it also creates a relationship in an emotional level, because I believe that, and you are helping me to believe on that, right? All the campaigns are again directly or indirectly triggering me to do the overall, or motivating me to do or go out and play and accept the overall concept of being healthy, right? And there's the way how the Nike is trying to address. And this is where the brand voice come into play. In brand tone is the adaptation of the brand voice to suit a specific context, situation, or audience. It changes based on the message being delivered, the emotion involved, or the target audience state of mind. So brand tone can change. So today, if the overall theme is towards Olympic, right, then the overall representation of the narrative of that particular brand, say for Nike has been official partner of Olympic, right? So overall tone of that representation may be towards focusing on all the segments, right, of the sports, not individual sports. Or say for example, the Nike is sponsoring any kind of football competition, so the whole tone will be related to football and the representation will be related to football, right? So it will change, but the brand voice, just do it, will remain consistent. So this is where the brand tone and voice changes. When brand voice typically doesn't change, brand tone changes. And we as a designer can take the benefit of such kind of things while we are trying to do any kind of marketing or any kind of promotional concept based on the particular requirement or brief given by the company. Okay. So finally, we are talking about the brand experience, which is very, very important, because as I said, branding is always dynamic in nature, and you can sense it here because in brand experience, again, you may have a better perception maybe before experiencing the brand, but while you experience, maybe it was not that suitable or it was not that pleasant, then the overall brand experience will go down. And although your visualizations are good, although your logo is good enough, right, although your marketings are so good, but while I'm experiencing it, it's not working out, right? It's not making me pleasing about that particular brand. So overall, it boils down to the experience. So if my experience is not good, either it will be so disappointing for me, and if the experience is good enough, it will be so satisfactory for me to continue the product or continue the services which is given by the particular brand. So brand experience is the holistic perception. As I said, it includes overall feel the customer have of a brand based on every interaction they have. As I said, it's very, very dynamic. So maybe your brand experience can be good of a similar product. For me, the same product experience may be different. So it encompasses all the sensory, emotional, and cognitive and behavioral responses elicited by the brand through its touch point, such as its products, services, marketing, customer service, and even the physical or digital environment in which the brand operates. So it is, as I said, it's a holistic way of representation. So some way or the other, the overall experience will make me go and take the product repeatedly, or it's the experience which will decide that I will never use that particular product. Okay, and this is again very, very important. So all the customer service is associated to brand experience. So if you have bought the product and the servicing is bad, right, there are high chances any product can go damaged, but the overall servicing is not good, not pleasant, and you have to go to and fro a lot, the overall experience will be unsatisfactory, and that will reflect the overall representation of the brand. So as I said, the brand experience, again, this is I'm giving you again another example, like how Maruti has taken the concept of premium segment, and the overall experience is good. So if you go in Nexa, you will feel a different experience. You will be asked in every segments. As far as my experience, I have been quite satisfied, because while I was considering my car, right, for service, and it was under Nexa category, then the overall servicing experience was quite good, because I have been repeatedly updated. Even the work process was, even though I was not present there, earlier I had other cars like which was under the normal Maruti Suzuki segment, where the service process was not frequently considered to be updated to the consumers. But when I took the Nexa service, the overall experience was quite seamless, I would say. And why I'm saying this, because every part they are changing or repairing is been shared to me point to point in every time, and they have also taken small clips that of proof saying that these are the things which are changed, right, or these are the things which are repaired, right. So overall, I'm getting a live update of the overall service, right, and that builds a sense of trust with the overall brand. And this is where the brand experience matters a lot. Okay. And the most of the organization, most of the companies are trying their best to make the overall experience seamless such that the customer has more trust and there is a recall for that particular brand. Okay. And with this, they are also trying to also look into different segments, where tomorrow if they are trying to make a new product, since my overall experience was good, I'll be the a positive reviewer, in fact, saying ki, okay, this product is quite good because I have a past experience of experiencing their previous products, which are really good in terms of durability, in terms of functionality, in terms of features, right. And now I would definitely suggest some of the other my friends, my colleagues, to go through that process because I had a better experience. And that's where the idea of branding plays around. And when the branding is good enough and the product is good enough, I, being a consumer itself, will do the branding for the particular organization because I will market it because I have a better experience. Indirectly, I will try to market it. It's not like a conscious way, but since the product is good, I will definitely refer it to other people, right? And automatically, this also helps the overall brand to sustain because it is going organically. The overall marketing, the overall promotion is going organically, right? And that's very, I would say, when a company goes in that direction, that means the company is doing well, the products are really good. Okay. So with this, we have come to the end of this first part of branding. So we'll look into the idea of how branding has an impact in the community and society, and what are the steps taken to consider as in the idea of branding, right? So we'll go through some of the case study associated to that, and we'll also try to understand how Incredible India case study was used, right? So we'll try to decipher it and how it has impacted the overall Indians and globally for a better perspective. With this, we thank you. Have a nice day.